Right, right.
because he could evoke such a tear in you, and yet he was a comic.
Dean Martin was the kind of Hollywood legend people thought they understood until Angie Dickinson, the woman who saw him up close, shattered the myth. In her final years, Angie revealed that the King of Cool was not the effortless charmer America adored, but a man built from secrets, contradictions, and shadows no spotlight could ever reach. She spoke of hidden romances, whispered rumors that rattled the Rat Pack, and a darkness behind Dean's smile that even Sinatra couldn't decode. For 50 years, Angie kept silent, protecting a man who lived behind walls no one dared question. Until now, what she finally revealed about Dean Martin doesn't just change his story, it rewrites Hollywood history itself. But here's the part no one expected. Angie says the biggest secret wasn't about Dean's career, it was about his heart. Dean Martin never looked back once he shut a door, and no door slammed louder in Hollywood than the one he closed on Jerry Lewis. For a decade, Martin and Lewis were America's unstoppable comedy machine, a duo that owned radio, television, and the silver screen. But Angie Dickinson says the truth behind their split was far darker than the public ever imagined. Jerry was a perfectionist, obsessed with absolute control, rewriting jokes minutes before showtime, rehearsing until dawn, pushing Dean past every limit. Dean, meanwhile, believed comedy lived in ease, instinct, and natural charm. The tension grew quietly, dangerously, until admiration turned into resentment. When audiences began worshiping Jerry as the genius and dismissing Dean as the handsome partner, the fracture became irreversible. Their final night at the Copacabana didn't end with applause, it ended with a cold silence. After stepping off stage, Dean walked straight out the back door without speaking a single word to Jerry. No handshake, no goodbye, nothing. Angie later said, Dean didn't end relationships, he erased them. And this erasure lasted 20 long years. But the real question remains, what pushed Dean to cut deeper than anyone expected? Angie Dickinson insists that the biggest lie Dean Martin ever told was the one he performed every night, his famous drunk act. To the world, Dean was the Rat Pack's lovable lush, the charming troublemaker with a drink always in hand. But on stage, that wasn't whiskey. It was apple juice. The slurred speech, the wobbling walk, the half-sung, half-laughed melodies, all part of a role he perfected with surgical precision. Angie says Dean hated chaos. He hated drunken foolishness. And he hated losing control. So while Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. partied until the sun rose, Dean slipped quietly back home, usually before midnight. This calculated performance built his empire. America loved the illusion of a carefree rebel who lived on booze and bravado, but Angie knew the truth. Dean Martin was the most sober man in the room. His coolness wasn't recklessness, it was discipline. But the world never learned how much that controlled act protected him, especially from the forces who watched the Rat Pack's every move. According to Angie Dickinson, Dean Martin didn't fear the mafia, he understood them. And they, in turn, respected him in ways the public never realized. During the 1,950 seconds and 60 seconds, Las Vegas wasn't run by stars or casino moguls. It was run by the Chicago outfit and the East Coast syndicates, with Sam Giancana sitting near the top. Sinatra had openly tangled connections with Giancana. Sammy Davis Jr. flirted with danger. But Dean? Dean moved through the underworld with a quiet confidence that baffled observers and fascinated Angie. FBI files show his name linked to private gatherings at the Sands hotel parties where deals shaped careers, elections, and entire industries. One security guard said, Dean never flinched around mob bosses. He looked like he belonged there. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But one thing is certain. Mafia protection kept the Rat Pack untouchable, and Dean's calm, measured demeanor made him the safest man in the group. Angie always believed Dean understood the cost of power in Vegas and the price of crossing the wrong people. And yet, through it all, Dean maintained the same quiet smile, as if even the mafia's reach couldn't penetrate his shell. But what Angie reveals next proves Dean's biggest vulnerability wasn't danger, it was love. Angie Dickinson never called it a love affair, but Hollywood did. And for once, Hollywood was right. Their connection began on the Rio Bravo set, where Dean shocked everyone by doing something he almost never did: staying late. The man famous for slipping out of parties quietly now lingered beside Angie, talking, laughing, relaxing in a way she had never seen. Crew members whispered, directors smirked, and one producer joked, "If they're not together, then I don't believe in chemistry anymore." Angie later admitted their bond was sweet but fragile, a romance built on quiet moments rather than declarations. Dean trusted Angie in ways he never trusted other women, yet he refused to make their relationship public. Why? Because privacy was his survival mechanism. A scandal could destroy both their careers, so they chose silence, painful, protective silence. That unspoken love became one of Hollywood's most whispered secrets, a story frozen in time. But Angie says their relationship taught her something deeper about Dean. No matter how close you thought you were, there was always a locked door inside him you could never open. Dean Martin had 7 children, 3 marriages, countless friends, and an entire nation that adored him, yet Angie Dickinson swears he was one of the loneliest men she ever knew. His marriages to Betty McDonald, Jean Beager, and Catherine Hahn all followed the same quiet pattern: warmth, distance, collapse. Dean provided for his families. He loved his children, but he kept a part of himself sealed away, unreachable even to those closest to him. His son, Dean Paul Martin, once said, "My father was in the room, but his mind was always somewhere else." Angie believed this emotional distance wasn't coldness, it was self-defense. Dean had learned early that vulnerability was dangerous in Hollywood, so he built a private world, a sanctuary no one could fully enter. Fame didn't touch it. Romance didn't break it. Not even the Rat Pack could penetrate it. That invisible barrier shaped every relationship he ever had. And once Angie understood this, the final pieces of Dean's mystery began to fall into place, but they also revealed the deepest wound he carried. Angie Dickinson knew better than anyone that Hollywood thrives on whispers, and Dean Martin was its favorite target. His emotional distance from women, his tendency to disappear early from parties, his closeness to certain Rat Pack members, especially Sinatra, fed rumors about his sexuality for decades. Angie never confirmed nor denied these whispers, but she understood why they clung to him. Dean wasn't flirtatious. He wasn't predatory. He wasn't a Hollywood wolf. He avoided romantic chaos and physical affection in public. That alone made him suspicious in an era obsessed with labels. Angie says Dean didn't care what people believed, but the rumors still hurt him. Not because they questioned his masculinity, but because they proved how little anyone truly understood him. His silence created narratives he never intended, stories he never corrected, and the more he withdrew, the louder the gossip grew. Angie insists this was the price Dean paid for guarding his heart. The world created its own version of him, but none of it prepared her for the revelation she shares last, the truth that defined everything Dean Martin ever was. Angie Dickinson's final truth about Dean Martin is the one that rewrites his entire legacy. Dean wasn't hiding from Hollywood, he was hiding from himself. Every mask he wore, every wall he built, every illusion he perfected was designed to protect a soul far more fragile than the public ever imagined. The apple juice drunk act protected him from pressure. The silence protected him from conflict. The emotional distance protected him from heartbreak. The secrecy protected him from exposure. Angie insists Dean wasn't mysterious because he wanted to be. He was mysterious because he didn't know how to be anything else. He lived a life full of people, yet walked it as if alone. Loved deeply, yet rarely showed it. Achieved greatness, yet never believed he deserved it. Angie's voice, soft but certain, cuts through the legend. Dean Martin was a man who needed the world. He just didn't know how to let the world have him. And with that final confession, the myth collapses, and the man finally steps into the light. In the end, Angie Dickinson's revelations do more than peel back the layers of a Hollywood giant. They force us to confront the uncomfortable truth that the legends we worship are often the loneliest people in the room. Dean Martin wasn't just an entertainer. He wasn't just the king of cool. He wasn't even the man the public thought they knew. He was a puzzle built from charm and silence, from laughter and heartbreak, from an on-stage persona that sparkled while a private world quietly crumbled behind closed doors. For decades, America adored the swagger, the grin, the half-drunk croon floating through smoky Vegas lounges. But Angie reminds us that behind the immaculate tuxedo stood a man carrying the weight of expectations he never asked for. He mastered the art of looking effortless because he never felt allowed to show effort. He pretended to be carefree because he feared what would happen if he ever showed how deeply he cared. He played the drunk because it was easier than explaining the sober truth. He didn't belong to the chaos around him. He belonged to silence. And maybe that's why Angie Dickinson is the only person who came close to truly understanding him. Not because she uncovered every secret, but because she recognized the one truth. Dean spent a lifetime hiding. He wasn't protecting his privacy. He was protecting his pain. Every friendship, every romance, every whisper of scandal becomes clear when seen through this lens. His cold departure from Jerry Lewis wasn't cruelty, it was defense. His distance from women wasn't disinterest, it was caution. His rumored ties to the mafia weren't thrill-seeking, they were the calculated movements of a man who valued safety above spectacle. Even his legendary drunk act was a shield, a comedic disguise worn to prevent anyone from asking what he was really feeling. Angie's final message is simple yet devastating. Dean Martin lived surrounded by applause, yet emotionally isolated. He made the world laugh while carrying a sorrow he never spoke aloud. And now, long after the lights have dimmed and the stages have fallen silent, Angie's voice finally fills the void he left behind. She doesn't expose him to tarnish his legacy. She exposes him to humanize it. Because maybe the greatest legacy Dean Martin leaves us isn't the music, the movies, or the Rat Pack mythology. Maybe it's the reminder that even legends bleed quietly, love quietly, and suffer quietly. Maybe it's the reminder that coolness is sometimes just another word for survival. And now the story is in your hands. What do you see when you look at Dean Martin now? A myth? A mystery? Or a man who spent his life trying to outrun the world's expectations? Tell us what you think. If this story changed the way you see Dean Martin, share your thoughts in the comments and let us know which revelation from Angie Dickinson struck you the most. Remember to like this video, leave a comment to continue the conversation, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next untold chapter of Hollywood's hidden history. Spread this story to anyone who grew up admiring Dean Martin. They deserve to understand the man behind the legend.